started here.
Recording stopped.
Welcome everyone to this official press conference, Leagues Cup 2025, ahead of the final between Seattle Sounders and Inter Miami. Today, we welcome head coach Brian Schmetzer from the Seattle Sounders, and subsequently we'll bring midfielder Christian Roldan. Thank you very much. Any opening statements?
Nope.
All right, we'll start with questions here.
You know, Brian, yesterday, I guess it was, you made a statement about how, they have Messi, but we have Paul Rothrock and a whole bunch of other, local kids. But, taking the sort of like the funny contrast of that aside, there is it does say something about the way that the rosters are built. They have a lot of international talent, big names. You guys do not have necessarily the same level of big name players. You have a lot of players who have, been in MLS for a while, that have come through the system, that have gotten really great results in their own right. And I guess if you could just speak to the contrast in sort of philosophies when it comes to roster building between these two teams, and how that sort of might manifest itself in the game.
Look, I think that's been written about on both sides. There's 30 teams in the league. Each one does it differently. Some are maybe grouped over here and some are grouped over here. Look, my personal feeling on our roster build was, Albert was the last piece to get us over the Champions League.
Recording in progress.
Winning. The way Garth did it when Tam came in, and now there's, different rules, U22s, everything's always evolving. We had Clint Dempsey and Oba and, more recently, Nico and Raul. There's no back to getting an established star. We might do that. Everything's cyclical. What I'm proud about with this roster is that Craig's done a good job, because nobody really talks about Jesus and Paul, Albert, like I mentioned, Pedro's finding his feet, Jordan, Christian, they've all been a part of many championship teams. Steph Fry could be the best, signing this club's ever made at the end of the day. That was back when Ziggy and Tommy were talking about goalkeepers. So the thing I'm most proud of is, we do it differently. Everybody does it differently. But yes, the young kids have shown up. And specifically, the names I mentioned, look, Paul is great. Jackson's great. Snyder's got potential. Obed's getting a lot of press because of his talent. Just Danny Leyva having some good performances. The list goes on. And, being from the Northwest, seeing local kids grow up, similar to what happened in my time, with Mark Peterson, Jeff Stock, Jeff Durgan, then Chance and, Billy Crook and everybody else, Jimmy McAllister leading us off, and I can't forget him. But Pacific Northwest has produced quite a few really good soccer players.
Brian, you stressed to us that you're not a defensive coach, and yet, and the defense is non-negotiable. But talking to your players today, the messagings, they understand and embrace the opportunity that they're going to have to play some defense in this game, and then, see if the counterattack can.
Well, hopefully it's not just counterattacks. Hopefully we do extend some possessions, because the less time Messi has on the ball, the less chances he has to score. But it's not just Messi. It's DePaul, it's Busquets, it's Alba, it's Suarez. It's, like Segovia's goal against Orlando, the last goal was really good. They've got some young kids that have played well. Kramashi, scored some goals for them. So it's going to take a lot of smart defending. And what I mean by that is higher up the field, if we can press effectively, that leads to turnovers. And that's an area that they have concerns about on their side of the thing, on the ball. So our defending has different meanings. We're not going to try and be pushed back for the entire game, but it certainly is going to be one of the key things is keeping Suarez and Alba and Messi and Busquets and Paul and Segovia off the score sheet.
Oh, hi, Coach. How are you? Back here. This is a question about yourself. I wanted to ask you, given all the players that you have out and all the injuries through the season, what would you rank as yourself? Is this your best coach job that you've done, given all these casualties, to put it in that way?
It's an interesting question. I think with a few more years of reflection, I think it might be right up there. We have lost a significant amount of time with our designated players. We had Ymar and Jackson, and then Ryan Kent, and João Paulo, and Steph with his concussion and everything. I will take 30 seconds to compliment, the coaching staff. I think Preki, again, was coach of the year in MLS at some point in his career. He's excellent coach. Freddie Juarez could have any job in this league. I'm confident of that. Andy will be a head coach at some point in his career. And Tommy Dutra is an excellent coach. And I label him all the time as just a goalkeeper coach, but it's not only who he is. He helps us with the build out in the back, playing out from the back on goal kicks, and our initial starting point with how we want to possess the ball. So the staff has done an incredible job of giving these players the tools to be successful. I'm very proud of them too.
Coach, with the suspension of Nuhu, are you going to change your formation to maybe a back three? How are you going to approach your left side of the defense?
Well, you really want me to answer that? I mean, look, Javier probably knows who I'm going to start anyway. With film these days and everything, there's usually not many surprises, but we are going to be true to who we are. Look, we brought a third center back later in the game to close the game out down in LA. That's certainly a possibility, but I have full confidence in the players that step on the field that are starters. And then if we need to change the game somehow through substitutions, fresh legs, whatever, I have that at my disposal as well.
We'll take one via Zoom. Jada, take it away, and then we'll go back here to the room. Give me just 1 second. There we go. Go ahead, Jada.
Thank you. Thanks for the time, Brian. Can you talk a little bit about Pedro and just his progression? And do you notice any more excitement from him as far as being able to play this game against such a star from his country?
Sure. He was excited about playing games in the Club World Cup. He just has a joy about him when he plays. You can see it in his smile and his face. Before he cut his hair, and maybe that's why he's playing a little better. But, when he had his longer hair, he would run and the hair was flowing and he smile on his face. And technically he's excellent on the ball. So, he looked like he was having a lot of passion in how he plays. He'll bring that again tomorrow, I'm sure. Part of it is just who he is, but of course, everyone, and not just Pedro, Christian's going to be excited, and Reed is going to be excited, and Ymar and Jackson and Osaze, they're all going to be excited to play against Messi.
We'll take 2 follow-up questions here in the room. Jeremiah?
Yeah, just any injury updates you can provide. I know there was some mystery concern earlier in the week, and if you could just
well, no mystery concern, but I will give you this little tidbit, Jeremiah, since you asked. I am going to have Albert Rusnak on the bench.
Hey, Ryan. I'm sure you could talk about all of your players, but Jesus Ferrer's, his versatility, he's played different positions. That has to take soccer sense and then some skill as well. Can you just talk about how smart he is as a soccer player?
Yeah, it's when we're comparing notes, and the messaging to our team this morning was, we've done a lot of good things this year, this season. We played against some big teams, PSG, Atletico, Botafogo. And what did we do well? And one of those things is, Miami has a lot of experience. Okay, they have a lot of players that have played at the highest levels, but we were able to compete against teams at the highest level in the Club World Cup. We've had players, Jesus, I'll answer your question. He's played in a World Cup. He's played in a knockout World Cup game as a starter. Christian's had a lot of experiences in Ymar and Jackson, and maybe it's not at the highest levels like Suarez and Messi and DePaul and all those guys, but we've shown that we can compete. So Jesus brings that little bit of experience. He's certainly a very smart soccer player, both on and off the ball, and we're lucky to have him.
We'll have time for one more,
Sure.
Jeremiah.
We haven't seen it a lot, but it does seem like Osaze and Jesus have sort of started to form a neat little partnership up there. And the fact that they have a similar background in that they both are the son of players who are themselves peers. What is that? What have you seen with their interchange and sort of the way that they play off one another that seems to be working?
It's an interesting thing. I never really thought about that they're sons of famous footballers. And I don't know if they've connected on that level. I'm sure they probably talk about it in the locker room. I'm sure they share experiences. But, what I would say about them is you've got Jesus, again, to Miles's question, a really smart soccer player. He can play with Jordan. He can play with Albert. He can play with Moose. He can play with a lot of guys. And then you have not the counterbalance, I wouldn't say, but just the young kid who's making the most of his opportunity, who's so full of vim and vigor, and he's just like he's just, his ears and eyes are open. He's sucking in all the information, and for a guy like Jesus, who's a little more cerebral, it's kind of fun to play with. You got a guy who would do everything you ask for and then some. And so I think you're seeing out of Osaze, just kid has a lot of confidence. I'll give him that. And, he's just making the most of his opportunity.
With that last question, we close our
Thanks,
press
everybody.
conference and thank Coach
Thank you.